Our next candidate is Dr. Randy Hanna, Dean Hanna from Panama City, FSU campus. I think we all know him, but he is should be coming in shortly. Randy, make yourself, Dr. Hanna, make yourself comfortable, and I think you know everyone here very well.
Hello.
Before we start, how are things in Panama City? I'm sort of close to that part of the world, as you know. So.
Yes, sir.
I still have a brother that lives there now, and a nephew, and so get back there every chance I get.
And we actually have a few folks from Panama City who are here this afternoon who came over. So thank you for the opportunity for them to be able to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you, and happy for that, Panama City folks. Good to see you out there. The first question that I have is, I'll ask you a little different from you because I do think we know you. So, but first I want to say thank you for joining us today. We're very excited about your candidacy and eager to learn about you. By way of introduction, please take a few minutes to tell us about yourself professionally and personally. Add in any of the color and details that you think we might not have, and why at this point in your career you're interested in becoming the president of Florida State University. What interests you most, Dr. Hanna, about the university and the position?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to all of the members of the committee. It is indeed an honor to be here today. I appreciate the opportunity that you have presented for me to spend this hour with you and talk a little bit about my background, talk a little bit about my vision, how we develop a shared vision for Florida State University, and how we move forward. It was almost 40 years ago that my wife and I had just graduated from college. And we moved into a luxurious 2-bedroom apartment in Alumni Village overlooking the laundry building room. We paid $135 a month for that. I went to law school, and my wife paid my way through law school. And I'll be forever indebted for that. And she is here with me today, my wife Jerry and my daughter Grace Ellen. We also have a son. Grace Ellen and Curtis are both graduates of Florida State University. I'm honored to have 4 post-secondary degrees, but I received my education at Florida State University. It was here that I gained critical thinking skills. It was here that I gained a lifelong love for learning in law school. It was here that I understood, and it was embedded in me, the importance of giving back to your community. I've been very blessed. We've been very blessed. We'll celebrate our 40th wedding anniversary this year. I've practiced in the private sector, ran a very successful law firm, multi-state law firm, doing complex financial work, representing colleges and universities and governments and electric utilities, municipal utilities. I served as chancellor of the largest education system in the state of Florida, the Florida College System, where we were very focused on connecting our graduates to the workforce in the state. And for the last 5 years, I've been the dean and CEO of Florida State University, Panama City. I hope we get a chance to talk a little bit about what's happened in the last 5 years at FSU PC. A lot more happened than I planned, including a a major hurricane that wiped out our community. And we'll talk a little bit about how our faculty and staff and everybody all came together to make sure we were focused on student success. I must admit, I did watch your committee meeting the other day on the web, and I was pleased that I was placed in the category of traditional candidates because I've spent a significant part of my time in academia as the dean of a campus, the CEO of a campus, and as dean of a separate college, as chancellor of the college system, as a board member of Florida A&M University, as a board member of the University of West Florida, as a board member of Tallahassee Community College. But I've also spent time in the private sector, and I bring to you today a lifetime of experience in higher education, in fundraising, in business, in law, in economic development, and in community engagement. Mr. Sasser, you asked why. Why are you here? I've kind of prepared my entire life for this job. Everything that I just mentioned are all things that are needed, that your next president needs to be able to do. And I'm ready to do that. And then finally, I would say, and if we get to talk a little bit about Panama City, one thing we talk about is the FSU Promise. And it's what we promise our students when they come in the door. We promise them, one of the things that we promise them is that FSU will always be your home. Well, 40 years ago, when we moved into that luxurious apartment off Lake Bradford Road, that became the start of this becoming our home. And FSU is our home. And I could think of no better place, and no place where I could make an impact in impacting students and impacting the state of Florida than I could here at Florida State University. I'm honored to be here, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next question is from Dr. Paraway.
Hi, Dr. Hanna. Good to
Hey.
see you. As you are well aware, Florida State University has recently joined the nation's top 20 public universities. We're very proud of that. And again, the rankings are from U.S. News and World Report. I know there are other rankings. But what do you see? I mean, I've talked to faculty, and we have students who would love to see us in the top 10 if at all possible. What do you see as FSU's obstacles into getting to the top 10 public universities? And what types of steps would you take to continue to have us move up in the rankings, and how long do you think it would take?
Yeah, well, and thank you very much for that question. And I am very focused on the issue of student success. And today I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about rankings and metrics and U.S. News and World Report rankings. But then on the other hand, we'll probably talk a little bit about AAU and research and how those are in many ways different types of rankings and the way you are measured against your peers. Since the day I got here, and actually if you go back for the last 15 years, Florida State has been focused on the issue of student success. And I've been honored to sit on the Dean's Committee on Student Success, where I've been involved in a lot of the issues, a number of the issues that we have put into place. Experiential learning, additional tutors, additional faculty support, additional classes, to make sure that that students have the classes that we need. Been focused on the issue of making sure we have more people in the classroom, to make sure the classes are sized appropriately. And the good thing about those rankings, you find a direct correlation between those rankings and student success. you find a direct correlation between how that money was spent and student success. You see our graduation rates have gone up. You see our retention rates have gone up. You have seen all the measures that U.S. News and World Report that they look at. You saw those increase as we put resources toward those measures. Now, it was an excellent partnership. It was an excellent partnership between the Florida legislature and those institutions that sought preeminence and sought those rankings. But it took money, okay? It's going to continue to take funds. And whether that comes from the legislature or it comes from private sources, we're going to have to find the funds to do that. We're going to have to add some additional faculty, both there and in research. But there's some things that we can do that will not be as expensive. We're going to have to make sure that we look hard at class availability. We're going to have to make sure that students are able to get through, that they can get the calculus class that they need to be able to graduate, and that all the classes are not full. We're going to have to make sure that we have learning assistants in the classrooms. We're going to have to change in many ways in working with the faculty, letting them lead the way, what may have been the traditional way of delivery. And if anything, COVID has helped us think differently about that. And I hope I get to talk about what we've done in Panama City in that regard, in the use of technology. But we're going to have to look at the pedagogy and in the delivery. And I think we've seen a significant difference here at Florida State just by looking at trigonometry courses and reducing the number of DFWs in trigonometry courses, but just by looking at the redesign. And those are things that we can do to move us forward. I think it'll be an incremental move. It will not be as fast as when we move from 44th to 18th, but I think it is realistic to shoot for the top 10. You may have asked me how long.
How long, yes?
Yeah, and I would put a goal of 5 years, but I will tell you we're going to have to work hard to be able to do that. And I know we're going to talk about research. And I want to, but we cannot set aside the issue of student success. It must be a high priority for this university.
Any follow-up questions? Our next question is from Mr. Hall.
As you know, fundraising is an important aspect of the president position and will play a critical role in the further development of the university. What experience have you had in working with individual donors, foundations, and corporations? Building the endowment in particular will be key to the institution's success. Please share your experience in building and managing an endowment.
Well, thank you very much for that question, and thank you for your service. Your past service in student government. Is that correct? I met last night. I can't tell if some of them are here. I met last night with our Student Government Council, the first meeting of our 40th Student Government Council at Florida State University, Panama City, and I value the relationship that I have with our students. In fact, the student government president sits in on our dean staff meetings every week. But you asked me about fundraising and endowments, and let me talk a little bit about that. I love helping people achieve their goals. And that's what we're doing. Whether it's an individual, whether it's a corporation, whether it's a foundation. I love helping people achieve their goals. Since I've been in Panama City, we doubled our goal. We doubled our goal as part of the Raise the Torch campaign and met it. This past year, I raised money for the FSU Fsupc Promise Scholarship. And if you haven't heard about it, I'm going to tell you about it at least once, maybe twice today, where we've guaranteed every student in Northwest Florida with an adjusted family gross income of $50,000 of less, free tuition. And 2/3 of that money was raised from the private sector. And that's money that we raised. We did raise from some alumni, but most of that money was raised from family foundations and corporations. When I came to FSU Panama City, everyone said, we need a mechanical engineering program. We had to have a mechanical engineering program as part of economic development. I worked with the FAMU FSU College of Engineering to see what we could do to do that. It was clear they needed an endowed professor in mechanical engineering. So I went to two corporations, the St. Joe Company and Gulf Power, and raised the funds for that endowed professorship. Those are examples of how I have been involved in both corporate and in foundation giving and in personal giving. One of the gifts that I'm most proud of, we developed the John and Gail Robbins Center for Academic Success and Innovation, and it has become part of the campus hub. And my dear friend John Robbins died of COVID over the holidays. But he was not a graduate of Florida State. But he saw that it was a way to help students succeed. And he didn't have a college degree. And he wanted students to be able to succeed. So it's helping people meet their goals, okay? Now, here's what I think. I believe we've done a pretty darn good job. And let me just say, if I say things today about how I think we could do things better, don't think that's in any way a criticism of how we've done it in the past. This is a fabulous place. This is a fabulous place and a fabulous university and a great place to work. But I think in the fundraising side, I think we need to do more in corporate and foundation giving. I think most of our giving has been on the alumni side, and we have minimal giving in the corporate and foundation giving. It's about 15% in the corporate and foundation giving, 15 to 20%. And that includes a number of family foundations. When we're working with corporations across the state, we should no longer be working in silos. We should be developing those partnerships to help those corporations solve their needs, meet the needs of our students, and also help them meet their future needs through the development of programs and philanthropic giving. And that's the same thing with foundations. Probably if we talk about research, we'll probably talk a little bit about NIH funding, which is not your question, but as we talk about NIH funding and partners, we probably need to talk about the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Ford Foundation and other foundations that are interested in healthcare. I will tell you that one thing that I've talked about my experience. Let me talk a little bit about what I'd really like to do. I'd really like to rejuvenate and develop excitement around the corporate and fundraising side, in addition to continuing to grow our alumni giving. You know, there's a great opportunity for foundation giving right here in this area as we look at healthcare disparities from the zip code directly to the west of us to the zip code where I lived in Greensboro and Gretna, all across North Florida to 32401 where I live in Panama City. The greatest health disparities, some of the greatest health disparities in the state of Florida are right here, and it was an area that was wiped out by a hurricane. And I think that we need to be able to tap into those foundation gifts. We need to be able to raise the matching funds. We don't have the support within the foundation right now to do that. It needs to be a high priority, and your next president, one of the first jobs is going to be to hire the new vice president of advancement, and that will be a high priority of mine, in addition to having a planned approach to the capital campaign. I hope that answered your question. I know I covered a bunch of stuff all around that same issue.
I think we're done.
I hope not.
Thank you. Our next question is from Ms. Blake Hedges.
In order to continue to meet its aspirations, FSU will need to dramatically increase its research productivity and increase its effectiveness in recruiting and retaining top-tier students. Based on your experience, what are the 3 to 4 challenges impacting the recruitment and retention of exceptional students, and what experience do you have facing these challenges? In addition, please comment on your experience in working with federal agencies such as the NIH, NSF, NAE, USDA, and others to obtain research grants.
Okay. So just to make sure I understand that, couple of different questions there: attracting and retaining top students, and working with federal agencies on research.
Yeah,
Okay.
basically.
Great. And I'll try to break that up into both undergraduate and graduate. Let me first start with undergraduate. We have a great student experience here at Florida State University on both campuses. And our student experience at FSU Panama City is going to get even better because we're now opening our first residential housing there this year. But you have to have a strong student experience. And students are looking for more than just what happens in the classroom. They're looking for the things that I talked about earlier. They're looking for the critical thinking skills, the experiential learning. They're looking for the externships, the job shadowing, the mentoring. I've heard from a number of our students over the last 48 hours or 72 hours about why they feel that FSU is important. I think we need to continue to do those things, and we need to be seen as one of the top in the country, if not the top in the country, for the student experience. I think there's some things that we also need to do. We're losing the very top students, okay? We're losing the very top undergraduate students. And if we want those students, we're going to have to put some funding into that. And I'm not necessarily talking about E&G funding, it may be foundation funding. But a top student who goes to our sister institution to the east with the same GPA will get a higher package than they will here, those at the very top levels. Students who are interested in STEM, they have other choices where they are getting better opportunities and better financial packages, including out of state. So we need to focus on that. You have to be careful about how much money you spend there. One thing that we also need to do is we need to look at our honors program. We have a great honors program. But Mr. Szilagyi, I think this week you guys approved at the Board of Governors a huge new honors building at the University of Florida, and I'm not suggesting that, but I think we probably do need to look at some of the programming that we do within our honors program to make sure that we are attracting and making sure that those students are getting the very best out of that experience. The third thing we need to do is we need to continue to focus on need-based financial aid and make sure that we've provided the support for the students who need that need-based financial aid. One third of our students are first-generation college students. I'm a first-generation college student. If you'd have told me then that today 1/3 would be still first-generation college students, I'd been shocked, okay? I have an email from a professor who said, I was advising a student and she was not doing well in her class last semester. Something happened this semester. Things turned around. And he said, I talked to her about it, and it was because of the Fsupc Promise scholarship, where she didn't have to work so much outside of the classroom, that she was able to focus on her job. And he said, she's going to become a great mechanical engineer. So that's what we need to do. Number two, on the graduate side, we're going to have to hire additional faculty in the research areas. We're going to have to look hard at our graduate packages. We're going to have to look at our postdoc packages. Part of the whole discussion about AAU and research will be the number of faculty you have doing research and the number of postdocs. And that's going to have to be an effort on behalf of the university. Moving to the involvement with the federal agencies. You mentioned USDA. I must say I've had no recent experience with USDA, except I once worked for the United States Department of Agriculture. However, I've had experience with other federal contracts and grants, and I've worked in the state agencies in the legislative process, and I've worked on Capitol Hill. And as dean at Florida State University, Panama City, right now we're working on an NSF grant. I'm working on a grant from Triumph Gulf Coast for $11.5 million for cybersecurity. We're also working on another grant with the department, and that's with the College of Communication and Information, working on another grant with the College of Education for a new laboratory school in Bay County. But as we look at our research efforts, we're at about 250, somewhere around there, in contracts and grants that come in. We're somewhere a little over 300 in research expenditures, and those numbers are different things. But we are woefully deficient in funding from NIH. We could have increased funding from the Department of Energy. In fact, one of the things that I was speaking to today with the Dean of the College of Engineering as part of the stimulus bill, the federal government and the Department of Energy is very excited about locating a energy research center, a Department of Energy research center at an HBCU focused on climate change. That would tie in perfectly with the work that we're already doing in power, the work we're doing with resiliency here at Florida State University. I've worked with the FAMU FSU College of Engineering with Department of Defense with the National Surface Warfare Center. We were selected as one of 5 teams that were selected to be able to receive contracts from them in the future. Funding, unfortunately, dried up on that project. I do not come to you, Ms. Blake Hedges, as a researcher, however. I do not try to sit here and tell you that I've spent my last 40 years doing research. But what I can tell you is I know how to bring people together for a shared vision. I know how to develop relationships. I know how to set priorities. I know how to turn those priorities into results, whether it's AAU or additional academy members or additional prestigious memberships in societies. I have that experience. I have that experience from running the Panama City campus, being the CEO of the Panama City campus. I have that experience from the private sector, and I'm very comfortable about my ability to do that. And I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Birmingham.
Okay. The university has its eyes set on becoming a member of the Association of American Universities. Can you talk about your experience working with those prestigious group of universities, and what plans would you use to implement to help FSU accomplish the goal of reaching AAU status? And then what areas need the most focus? I know it's a lot.
I have attended 3 AAU institutions. But as I said, the best education I received was here at Florida State University. But I believe it is important that we aspire to AAU status. It is there that you help set the agenda for the future of higher education. It is there that you have more opportunities to develop partnerships, especially in the research area. It is there that you are recognized as a true leader in higher education. I put in my letter a report from about 15 years ago, the former president of the University of Minnesota. He came in and he looked at Florida State University and he said, "You're on the path. You can do it." There was a separate report done at the same time. And it's interesting, you look at the schools that were potentially AAU ready then, they're AAU ready, that they're potentially could be AAU ready today. And some of them are our partners. Some of them are our partners in the ACC. Virginia Tech, North Carolina State. If you look at the analytics for those colleges and those universities that are AAU ready, you'll see Virginia Tech. You'll see North Carolina State. You'll see University of Illinois at Chicago. You'll see University of South Florida, primarily because of their health center funding. If we're going to get into the AAU, we are going to have to do just like Mr. Chairman, the board, and President Thrasher did on the U.S. News and World Report rankings. There are a variety of measures that we're going to have to focus on, and we're going to have to raise money. We're going to have to raise money to be able to do some of those. And it's not just research funding, although I do want to come back and talk about that. It's number of publications. It's number of prestigious memberships. It's number of highly prestigious memberships. It's number of National Academy members. Those are all things that we're going to have to do as a university in order to achieve membership in the AAU. And we're also going to have to increase our research funding. Now, one of the things when you look at research funding, I can show you a number of institutions, the University of Missouri, for example, where we're way ahead of them, but they've been a member of the AAU for many, many years. But for those who are being admitted now, we're going to have to increase our research funding. 15 years ago in that report, it was said that we must focus on our College of Medicine and we must focus on our College of Engineering. And I'm here today to say the same thing to you. But let me be careful. Let me be careful about how I say that. The important thing about being in the AAU is not abandoning what you're already great at, and the arts and the humanities and the social sciences. Those continue to count, and the undergraduate education also continues to count. But we're going to have to increase our funding, our research funding. I'm excited about the partnership, the potential partnership with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and the Academic Medical Center. I'm especially excited about the partnership with Tallahassee Memorial Hospital and a new hospital in Panama City with St. Joe, and the research opportunities that both of those will provide as we look at population health, as we look at translational health, as we look at geriatric health, as we look at oncology, as we look at rural poverty. And it's not just the College of Medicine. It's not just the College of Medicine that will be focused on this. It'll also be the College of Health and Human Sciences, the College of Social Work. It'll be all of the healthcare areas, and it will not be to the exclusion of the rest of the university. And I've already spoken a little bit about the College of Engineering. Your president, your next president is going to need to hire a new vice president of research. And I'm going to be looking for the best vice president of research possible. One that can help me lead the way. And what I can tell you is just like I told you earlier in response to the earlier question. I will be able to help set the priorities. I'll be able to hire the good people. I'll be able to help create that shared vision. And that's what we will do. I believe that membership in the AAU is important. I believe it is attainable. I believe we're in the group of 7 to 10 that are in the next group or groups who could be admitted into the AAU. And I'd love to help lead that way.
Any follow-up questions? Anyone? Thank you. Our next question comes from Ms. Gibbs.
Thank you. Good evening.
How are you?
Good. Please tell us about your experiences working with and addressing the needs of culturally diverse and ethnically diverse faculty, staff, and students. Tell us a little bit about what strategies and initiatives you have employed to support underrepresented groups and promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and what challenges you've experienced along the way and how you've overcome those.
Thank you for that question, Ms. Gibbs. And if I may, let me drop back and talk a little bit in the private sector. As a young lawyer, I went into a law firm at the end of my first year of law school as a law clerk, and ultimately over a period of time, became the managing partner in that law firm. That law firm was not very diverse when I started there. As I moved up in the law firm and as I moved up into leadership in that law firm, I am proud to tell you that is today one of the most diverse law firms in the country in that field, in the field of finance, complex finance, and public-private partnerships. And I'm proud to tell you that many of the students, when you asked about strategies, many of the students in that law firm that were hired were students that came from Florida State University College of Law. And several of them came from law school classes that I taught. And I'm very proud of that, and I'm very proud of the fact that when I was managing partner, we had 6 different offices in Florida and Washington, D.C., and 2 of the managing shareholders in those offices were African American female. Today, the managing shareholder of that firm is an African American female. So that's just an individual example of my work in the business world, but it was intentional. It had to be intentional. I think I mentioned earlier that I served on the Board of Trustees at Florida A&M University, and which was a fabulous experience for me. I love that institution. It's a great partner institution, and I love its mission. And I learned a lot from my service there. And then I was chancellor of the Florida college system, where 65% of the high school graduates start in the Florida college system, who go on to college start in the Florida college system. So there's plenty of diversity there. And then I go to FSU Panama City, and it's not very diverse at all. It's not very diverse at all. Now, when you look at all different groups, we're at about 25%, especially when you include Hispanic students, but when you include African American students, we're at about 6%. We're significantly below where we should be as far as attracting African American students. That is one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons that we put in place the Fsupc Promise Scholarship to increase diversity, not only diversity by race, but diversity across the area from different areas of Northwest Florida. We're having success, but one thing that we are finding is that we're finding that we have to start much earlier. We can't just start when it's time for them to apply to college. We need to start basically maybe in elementary, but we're starting in middle school. We're heavily focused on being engaged in the community. That's one thing I'm really proud of, and one thing we needed to do when I came to Panama City is get us engaged in this community. And this summer, with a grant from the Department of Defense, we're doing STEM on the Move, and we're taking STEM camps into all of these small towns to encourage students to gain a love for science. We have a program called the Future Physicists of Florida, where we're recognizing young people to get them interested in science from an early age. And it doesn't have to just be science, it can be across the board. So those are things that we're doing. We're making sure that students have the appropriate mentors and coaches. And that's been on the student side. I will tell you that we also struggle, and higher ed struggles on the faculty hiring side. I have 2 positions that we just hired for. And of the 3 finalists, in each position, the minority candidate accepted an offer somewhere else. And so we're going to have to do more work recruiting those candidates earlier. You can't just put out a job ad and expect the candidates to come. You're going to have to specifically recruit those candidates, and you're going to have strong packages for them, including, and back to your question, Ms. Blake Hedges, appropriate startup packages to support graduate students who are there. So it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress, and we'll continue to work on that each and every day. It's something that I'm committed to, though, because I can assure you that students do better. Students do better when they come into a situation where they're comfortable. Students do better when they come into a situation where people have lived the same experiences that they have. They're also looking for that diverse experience and learning more from others. But we clearly see the benefit, and I can assure you I will be committed to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Trustee Mateer.
As you know, FSU has a vibrant Division I athletics program that captures the attention of alumni, current students, and the nation. Tell us about your experience working with Division I or other athletic programs. We are particularly interested in learning your approach to balancing the competing interest in advancing academic excellence and fostering new research against the needs of a thriving athletic program.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mateer. And as a basketball fan, I used to buy tickets to watch you. Florida State University has a fabulous athletic program, and I wish I was going to the soccer championship this weekend. I'm a strong supporter of athletics for a number of reasons. Number one, it provides an opportunity for students, in some cases, who may not have that opportunity. Number two, it allows a sense of excitement and folks joining around an effort, both alumni and students. And number three, on the fundraising side, Mr. Hall, getting back to your question, both athletics and academics, if done right, they can lead to financial support for each other. And so I'm a strong supporter. I have not run an institution where I've been in charge of Division I athletics. I've been on the board of an institution with Division I athletics. I've been on the board of an institution with Division II athletics, and been on the board of a institution with community college athletics. And as chancellor, I worked with all of our institutions that had programs. I would say to you that what I bring, though, is that commitment to excellence. That commitment to excellence, it's not athletics or academics. Those two are tied together. Those two are tied together. And one doesn't have to be done to the exclusion of the other. Florida State is known for its excellence across the board. And we should have excellence in both academics and in both academics and in athletics. And once again, I'm not coming here as someone who has been directly involved in running an athletic program, just as I'm not coming here as someone who has spent 40 years in the research labs. But what I am coming here with is a balanced approach, both on the public and the private sector, where I expect excellence, I expect adherence to rules, I expect us to win, I expect us to play varsity in the classroom and on the field, and in everything that we do. And so that's my commitment to you, Mr. Mateer.
Thank you. I have one question for you, and then I'd like you to sort of use this opportunity to wrap up your position for your experience and your background and how that's relevant to your candidacy. But the question I have is, as we look out into the future, Dr. Hanna, for Florida State University, and you're the president, what does this university, how does it look 5 years from now? What are our accomplishments? Where are we in 5 years?
We have come so far. We have done so much. We've done so well, but there's so much more to be done. You know, I've talked a little bit about my experience. There's not a place in this state that I have not worked. There's not a county in this state I have not worked, and there are very few places in this state that I do not have significant connections. There's a reason the word state is in the middle of our name. And I would hope over the next 5 years that while we're pushing toward AAU and that we're continuing to focus on student success and we're continuing to ensure that we win a 4th or a 5th women's soccer championship and we get that men's basketball championship back that we should have had year before last, that we lean in hard to the state of Florida, that we develop partnerships across this state with corporations, with foundations, and with businesses. I worry sometimes that we could have a more open door, that we could have a more open door to the state and say, we're not only open for business, we want to do business with you. Whether you're a student, whether you're an alumni, whether you're a business, whether you're a corporate donor or a foundation donor, we want to do business with you. I'm going to give you a really simple example, and this is not exactly what I'm talking about, but when the pandemic hit, we set up a 24/7 hour hotline at FSU Panama City. If you call that number right now, 770-2411, someone would answer it, okay? We get all types of questions, okay? But people know our doors are open 24/7. We're a long ways from Miami. We're a long ways from Pensacola. Mr. Burr, it's a good hike to Jacksonville. We need to make sure that the rest of the state knows that we want to partner with them. And that has to be led from the president's office, with your vice president of research, with your provost, with your advancement officer, but it has to be led from the president's office. So I would say to you that that's what I see us doing. In addition to all of the things that we've already done, I think we continue to move toward AAU status. We continue to move toward top 10. We reach out to the legislature, just like was done with preeminence, and we say, help fund us. Help fund us to move toward AAU status. Help fund us on the more publications that we have, the more citations we have, the more National Academy members we have. Help us reach our research dollars. We will show you the benefit to the state of Florida. We'll also show you the benefit to the workforce in the state of Florida. So I see all of those things happening. And at the end of the day, I see this still being the greatest place for students to be able to go to school. I see us being able to embrace what we've learned from COVID. And I'm sorry I haven't gotten the chance to talk about what we learned in Panama City through both the hurricane and distance learning about technology and the future. But I see us being at the forefront of the pedagogy in that area. I see us maintaining a strong working relationship with our faculty and having strong shared governance. And I see this being a strong institution, and I would love to lead it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Randy, and it's been great seeing you again and meeting your family. A little applause for for the family. We appreciate your time, and I got just maybe 5 more minutes if you want, but I know you wanted to talk about Panama City.
I do.
So here's your chance. Tell the story.
And I think I see them back there. So raise your hands. So last night, somebody messed up and told me some folks were going to take the afternoon off. They're taking their own time to come over and listen to the presentation, and I am honored that they're here. The fact that I'm sitting here today, being interviewed, the fact that I have the potential of being your president, and I hope I will be your president, is because of the faculty, the staff, and the students at Florida State University, Panama City. When I went there 5 years ago, we had tremendous friction among the faculty. There had been a vote of no confidence in the prior leader. We had accreditation issues. New programs had not been started, and a few programs had been started in a number of years. A couple had. Few programs had been started in a number of years. We needed to redevelop the relationship with the community. We were able to do that. We were able to get started on that, and we started thinking about long-term plans, including other graduate programs and housing. And on October 10th, 2018, Hurricane Michael wiped us out. And that community is still wiped out today. Mr. Szilagyi, your team, they did amazing work. It was to bring the power back in 2 weeks, but I will tell you that, and I can't tell who all's out there, but I think our student government president is. I will tell you that we had students displaced for months and months and months. And we had to learn, we had to do higher education different. And we didn't have the withdrawals, and we only had a small drop. We only had a small increase in DFW rates, but we kept our students engaged. And we made sure, we tried to find out, we first looked where they were, make sure that they were safe, and worked with them. Since that time, we've added new programs. The damage is still there, but we've added new programs. We will have record enrollment this fall. Thanks to the support of the president, the board, Vice President Clark, we will open our first residential housing, which will have no financial risk to the university in this fall, and very, very excited about that. I told my very first meeting with our faculty and staff, and I would say this to all of us, as great as we are, I believe this is true. There are certain limitations we have that we can do nothing about it. I never was fast. I never was going to be a great athlete. I could train and train and train and train. I never was fast. But there are certain self-imposed limitations that we have. Sometimes there are beliefs that we have that hold us back, that keep us from saying, well, we can't get in the top 20. We can't achieve AAU. We can't receive that additional funding. We can't develop a shared vision for where we want to go. Let me say to you that group of folks sitting right back there, we all did that together. We developed that shared vision, and we've been successful. And I would be excited to do it here. And Mr. Chairman, I am, as I said in the beginning, I'm honored. I'm honored to be here, and I'd be honored to be your president.
Thank you, Dr. Hanna, and we appreciate your time here today. Are you going to sticking around tonight, or are you going to?
We're going to stick around.
Good.
So
it's good. Hope you have a chance to back to Tallahassee in the right way.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We're basically finished with the agenda for today, except for the wrap up and dinner. So we're about to take a recess until tomorrow morning. I assume that we're still looking at breakfast at 8 o'clock, Kyle? The committee meeting starts at 9 o'clock. We have a 9 to 9:30. We have some time for a committee discussion. And then the candidates begin. We have 3 candidates tomorrow and some decisions to make. It's been a great day. It's been, I think we've seen a lot of terrific candidates for this position. Florida State has grown, has excelled, has grown in the rankings, and I think that has gotten the attention of the best candidates in the country. So we're seeing some of those now. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Other Chairman, the Chairman, do you have anything to add?
No, Chairman, I thought it was a great day and a great job by you and the search firm and Kyle. It was a wonderful start to our process. So thank you for that.
Very good. We're in recess. Dinner is downstairs where we had lunch, right, Lena? Okay. At what time? Right now. I like that.